Hello, listeners, and welcome to episode 16 of DNA Film Wars. Today is our discussion episode on the upcoming films Creed and Widows. We will also rank our Rocky films from our least favorite to our favorite, and we will talk about our top 5 heist movies in anticipation of Widows, as well as upcoming movie news.
As always.
Yeah. So I guess we'll go ahead and get started with our thoughts on Creed. What are you thinking? Creed 2?
Creed 2? Well, I really enjoyed the first Creed, and I'm a pretty big fan of the Rocky movies. I enjoy most of them for the most part. So I've heard really good things about this one so far. So I'm really looking forward to it. I think it'll be really good.
Yeah, I've heard mixed things about this one, but yeah, like I said, like I've said before, I just sat down and watched a lot of these Rocky movies for the first time here over the last week or so. But I got to really liking them. I mean, there's not one that none of the Rocky movies, even the one I'm going to put at the bottom of my list here in a little bit, I don't hate any of them. I can enjoy all of them. Yeah, I liked the first Creed. I'm excited about this second Creed, bringing back Dolph Lundgren as Ivan Drago. And so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on this Widows movie?
It looks pretty good. You know, it's got Viola Davis. She's a really great actress. Got Michelle Rodriguez. She's really good. Yeah. Got Liam Neeson.
I don't know how much he's going to be in the movie. I feel like he's only going to be in like a good solid 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah, probably in a few flashback scenes throughout the movie. But
yeah, it's also got the girl who plays Aisha from Guardians 2.
Which one's Aisha?
The leader of the Sovereign, the gold lady.
Okay, yeah. That's cool.
I thought she was Zoe Deschanel the first time I saw her in the trailer, but she's not.
She's not.
Definitely
not. Yeah, I'm excited about it. Got a great cast. I've seen some great reviews about it.
Yeah.
Steve McQueen, he's directed some good films.
12 Years a Slave was really good.
Yeah, I actually haven't watched any of his
It's
movies,
really good.
But I've heard they're all good. So, just going off what I hear. So, but yeah, really excited about it.
I'm looking forward to this one too. I think it'll be really good. I'm interested to see how well they pull it off. Viola Davis is usually really good in everything she's been in. And
Suicide Squad.
Don't talk about that movie.
Okay.
Michelle Rodriguez, I mean, though she's only really been in the Fast and Furious movies, she
was in Resident Evil. Correct yourself.
I'm sorry, I've never seen Resident Evil. Don't really care either. But she's pretty good in the Fast and Furious movies. I mean, I like her all right. So I think it'll be a good movie.
All right. With that being said, why don't we just go ahead and jump into our ranking of the Rocky films? Do you wanna start with your number 7?
Yep. Coming in at number 7 for me is gonna be Rocky 5. I don't really care for this one a whole lot. It's I think the second or third movie that is only the second or third movie in the entire series that Sylvester Stallone did not direct. Because I think he directed 2 through 4.
Yeah.
He didn't direct the first one, and he didn't direct this one.
But it has the director of the original Rocky.
It does have the director of the original Rocky. But Sylvester Stallone wrote the stories and scripts for all of these.
Except for Creed.
Except for Creed. He did help write that one, I think, though.
I think he might have done a little bit of work, but he was not the main credited writer.
But Rocky 5, the story is not the best. It's okay. And I think it's kind of cool to see Rocky, you know, he's had this high for 4 films, and he's been riding it since the first one. And he kind of hits rock bottom in this movie, and that's really neat to see. But after that, it just takes a turn for me. He gets away from the boxing in this movie. He kind of takes this young kid under his wing, whose name is, terrible name, Tommy Gunn.
Tommy Gunn.
And it's,
don't talk about Tommy Gunn.
He is the worst part of this movie.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
We don't even have a boxing match at the end. We have a street fight between Rocky and Tommy Gunn, and it's probably the worst fight in the entire series.
Oh, no, that a doubt.
Easily.
It's horrible.
So,
horrible.
Acting in this movie, I mean, Sylvester Stallone does Sylvester Stallone. He does Rocky.
Yeah.
It's not his best performance as Rocky, but it's all right. Everyone else is okay, I guess, except for, guy who plays Tommy Gunn. Don't even know his name. Don't really care either.
Don't care either. I think it was his first and last role, probably.
Someone who's really good in this movie is Sylvester Stallone's son, Sage, who passed away at the age of 36. He does a really good job in this movie.
Yeah.
Especially for how young he was. So, that's my number 7.
Yeah, at number 7, the popular choice is to go with Rocky 5. I think it's the most maligned film among fans. But I'm gonna actually go with Rocky Balboa.
All right.
I was looking at the tomato scores for these films, which I know Rotten Tomatoes is not the be all end all.
No.
But behind Rocky and Creed, Rocky Balboa has the third highest Rotten Tomato score, like 76%, which shocked me because watching this movie, it's my least favorite. Sylvester Stallone wrote and directed this one. He kind of gave it like that low budget indie feel to it while he was filming it, which at times helps the movie. At times it works against the movie. But I thought the acting overall was pretty poor in this film. And especially there's this relationship that Rocky has with this younger woman. And it's kind of uncomfortable. At first, they like draw the line and say they try to say it. They draw the line and try to say that it's simply or totally platonic. But they kind of blur that line at towards the end of the movie because she like gives him a kiss on the lips, and I'm like, ooh. Now I'm sure in real life, Sylvester Stallone's wife is probably 20 years younger than he is. But that doesn't make it okay in a movie. I'm not saying. I mean, it's not okay. It's kind of awkward, I guess. I don't know. There's just the fight at the end bugs me because they do the whole he goes the distance but doesn't actually win the fight thing again, which they do that like 3 or 4 times throughout the Rocky franchise. I'm like, he was cool the first time, but not after that. I really wanted to see Rocky win that fight at the end, but yeah. After watching all these films, I'm gonna say Rocky Balboa is my least favorite.
All right. Well, coming in at number 6 for me is going to be Rocky Balboa. Pretty much everything you said is pretty true about this. It's been a while since I've seen this one, but I don't remember it being super good.
It's not.
Yeah. But, I mean, overall, it's a Rocky movie. I mean, I can't hate any of these movies, but it is not the best. It's not super grounded in reality. I mean, he's really old in this movie.
He's too old.
There's no way they let him box.
I will say, I didn't say much. I'll say positive about this movie. They do, although they really don't address it too much. They do address the fact that he's so old. Like at first, they refuse to give him his boxing license, but then they give it to him because he gives some kind of impassioned speech. But I mean, there's a few things this movie does right, but mostly not.
Yeah, so that's my number 6. What do you got at number 6 for you?
At 6, I'm gonna go Rocky 5.
All right.
I actually I'll say I enjoyed this movie. I didn't expect to because of all the bad things I heard about it, but I enjoyed this movie all the way up until the last fight. I enjoyed the kind of dual storyline of how Sage Stallone's character, Rocky Jr., felt that his dad was spending too much time with Tommy Gunn, although I didn't like the character of Tommy Gunn or the actor. But Sage Stallone, I thought, did pretty good. And I like that relationship they had where he was jealous of Tommy Gunn, so he started like rebelling and everything. I mean, not all of the themes and ideas in this movie are executed good, but I like what they were trying to go for with the themes of fatherhood and everything, and how he hit rock bottom, and how he thought he needed to train Tommy Gunn to like make him feel alive or whatever. But then we get to this end fight, and it is one of the worst filmed. It is the worst filmed and edited fight of the entire Rocky franchise. It's so nice. It reeks of early 90s style with like the shaky cam and the quick cuts and the soundtrack and the zoom in and out. And I'm just like,
bad.
And then like at the worst part is at the end, like he goes up to Tommy, this manager guy who stole Tommy Gunn away from Rocky, and he like hits him and it makes like the boing sound, and I'm like, no, why? But yeah, the movie crashes and burns at the end.
Oh,
but
it's bad.
I will say up until that point I had enjoyed the film, so I'm gonna say slightly above Rocky Balboa, but coming in number 6.
All right. Coming in at number 5 for me is going to be Rocky 3. It's not one of my favorite ones. It's still a good movie, and I think it's still pretty well made, and it's still a fun time, especially seeing Mr. T show up in this movie.
I pity the fool.
I mean, they're all fun times, and this is where we start to get we really start to get our cheesy 80s training montages in this film.
Well, they've had training montages, but this is definitely where they turn into.
This is where they start turning into the 80s cheese. It's a fun time though. We get with that training montage. I mean, obviously we're getting Eye of the Tiger, so it's a fun time. It's just not one of my favorite ones.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really have any complaints with it, so but that's why it comes in at my number 5.
Yeah, Rocky 3. I got it at number 5 as well. I will say that Rocky 3 is the first one that I would consider a quote unquote boxing movie. You look at the Rocky franchise. I would say that the only ones I would call sports movies or boxing movies would be Rocky 3, Rocky 4, and Creed.
Kind of.
Those are the only ones I would consider boxing movies because the rest of them don't have a lot of boxing. If you watch them, Rocky 5 has no boxing. The first two only have boxing, like maybe at the very beginning and then at the very end. And then Rocky Balboa. Only has
Rocky and
boxing
Rocky
at the
2 are definitely more of a
end.
drama. So
Yeah, but Rocky 3, that's where they definitely get into the boxing movie territory. They get into
the 80s cheese.
80s cheese. Mr. T. I love Mr. T in this movie, though. He's great. The one-liners and everything. What is your prediction? Pain. But I did feel this is where Sylvester Stallone's acting really started going downhill.
Yeah.
This is where he had complete control of the franchise by this point, directing and writing. He had directed and wrote the second one, but he also directed and wrote this one. You can tell Stallone wasn't quite a seasoned director or writer. Sometimes his writing is good, sometimes it's bad, just like his acting. Sometimes his acting is good, sometimes his acting is bad. It's just kind of hit and miss with him. But I do like this movie. It's really fun. We also get to see Hulk Hogan. They have like a wrestling match towards the beginning of the movie. It's crazy and it's funny, and Hulk Hogan is just entertaining.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, coming in, that's my number 5.
All right. Well, coming in at number 4 for me is going to be the sequel, Rocky 2, the sequel to the original Rocky 2. I really like Rocky 2, and I think it's a really good comeback story from that first movie because obviously, you know, at the end of our first movie, Rocky doesn't get the win in the fight versus Apollo Creed. Apollo does say that there's not going to be a rematch, but we get a rematch. So, but the build up in this movie is really good, and I really enjoy that final fight, and you really see Apollo come to respect Rocky at the end of that film, and they actually become friends, which is why he trains him in that third film, and they become really good friends and have a really good respect for each other, and I really like that aspect of the story. I think
they don't become friends in the second film.
At the end of it.
Well, not really. That's really not brought up until the third film.
Fair.
Yeah, get caught up on your Rocky, Dylan.
I mean, it's kind of in the second film because, I mean, they have that thing at the end.
Yeah, where they like respect each other or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever.
Anyway, but it's still a good movie. I think this is one of the better directed and better written films in the series, so that's why I got it at number 4.
Yeah, number 4, I have Rocky 4.
All right.
This movie is crazy. I mean, it's cheesy as all get out, and it's totally Cold War era movie. Like, I love, like, from the beginning, you know it's going to be just great cheesy fun. Like, they have these two gloves, like an American glove and a Soviet Union glove.
The very beginning.
And they, like, collide and go boom.
Blow up.
I'm like, oh boy, here we go.
And then Rocky 4.
Rocky 4. And, but, you know, I really like this movie. I think that, I mean, I hear people complain that
Dolph
Lundgren doesn't do any acting in this movie. But I think there is kind of a method of acting behind, like, his stoic, you know, he never says anything. He just kind of looks menacing. I mean, I kind of like how he does that performance, and his wife is doing all the talking and everything for him. And then I do like his performance at the end of the movie, like when the crowd turns on him and starts chanting Rocky, and he's like, "I don't do this for you, I do this for me." But anyway, Sylvester Stallone's acting. It's Sylvester Stallone's acting. Talia Shire, she's still good. She's probably the best actress and or actor in any of these films throughout the series. They have a really cool idea where Rocky has this robot. This robot like does everything, and like it kind of has a weird relationship with Paulie.
Yeah, it does.
And then at the end of the movie, like you're kind of left to, because Talia at first doesn't go with Rocky. I guess her name's Adrian in the movie. Adrian doesn't go with Rocky to Russia at first, so she's left with the kids and everything. But then she goes to Russia, and it shows the kids later, but it never shows a babysitter. So you're just kind of left to assume that this robot is babysitting. And like, and then like the fight at the end is great. Oh, of course, you know, then the scene in the middle of the movie where Drago kills Apollo, and it's like, and some of the behind the scenes stuff on this movie is really cool. Like Dolph Lundgren would really actually hit people. And because Sylvester Stallone told him to, but he at one point picked up Carl Weathers and threw him across the ring, and it made Carl Weathers so mad that he got up and walked off set for 3 days.
Threatened to not come back,
and threatened to sue and everything. And then, like, when they were doing their fight at the end, like, Sylvester Stallone told him, okay, I want you to hit me as hard as you can. And he hit him, and it
In the chest.
caused his heart to bounce against his rib cage, and
He was in ICU
he had to
for
go
like
to
3 days.
ICU. I mean, it's crazy. But yeah, this movie, it's just great 80s fun. I just love it. It's coming in number 4 for me.
All right, well, I got Rocky 4 at number 3. This is probably, I'm going to say it's my favorite film of the series. It's not the best. That's why I have it ranked at number 3. But it's my favorite and the one I like to rewatch the most just because of how fun it is.
Yeah, it's most rewatchable because of the runtime and because of the crazy cheese.
It's not long, and it's just a fun time the entire way through. I mean, it's got its semi-dramatic parts, when Apollo dies. And the ending fight is pretty tense. I really enjoy the end fight, even though it's kind of cheesy at points.
Yeah.
The very first line, like right before they fight, I believe is
I must
break you. Yeah.
That's my favorite line in the movie.
But I mean, like I said, it's a great time. We get a good training montage in this one that's also somewhat cheesy. We have Rocky training in the snow in Siberia.
This movie is all montage. Like I swear, 30 minutes of this movie is told in montage.
Yeah, I like his training montage in this one where he's training, like the snow of Siberia, and he's just, having a great time. And
I don't know if it's a great time. Yeah, he's having a time.
He's doing all kinds of, like, non-orthodox stuff to, like, try to, like, prep himself for this fight while Drago's over here, training with machines and in a lab and a bunch of tech and all kinds of stuff. But I mean, I really enjoy this film, and it's a fun time to just sit down and watch and enjoy the 80s cheese. So it's gonna be my number 3.
Yeah, number 3, I have Rocky 2. This one is still when the franchise was doing this. I mean, like this first one is it's more of a character study than a boxing movie. I have it at number 3 because I don't think it does it quite as well as Rocky or Creed, but it still does it really good. They throw out a lot of interesting ideas. A lot of them are not greatly executed, like the idea that Apollo is he's embarrassed by the fact that he didn't destroy this nobody, the Italian stallion Rocky Balboa, and they throw out a lot of interesting ideas, like that he gets hate mail, that he threw the fight, that he let his people down by losing to this white man. There's a lot of great ideas. Again, they don't spend a near enough time with Carl Weathers or Apollo Creed in this film, I feel like. Because obviously, Sylvester Stallone is writing the script. Who's he going to focus on? Sylvester Stallone. But even Sylvester Stallone's story is kind of interesting, how he marries Adrian in this film. And then Adrian gets sick with the birth of their child. And, I mean, this movie kind of drags towards the middle. But even though the line is stupid and cheesy, when she, like, wakes up from her coma after they've had this argument this whole time about whether or not he should fight. And, like, I guess she's been thinking about it during her coma, but she wakes up and she's like, I want you to win, Rocky, win. Even though the line is stupid and cheesy, everything after that scene, I get, like, super pumped because that that music, like, comes on and it's like dun 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 dun, and it's like I love that. I love everything that happens after that scene. But it's Rocky 2. It's fun.
All right, well, coming in at number 2 for me is gonna be the first Creed movie. Ryan Coogler did a really good job with this, coming back after years, which I believe was close to 10 years after Rocky Balboa came out. If I'm not mistaken. When did Rocky Balboa come out? Was it like 2006?
2006. So
and this came out in 2016?
Yeah. Release date wise, it's 9 years of 2015. It'd be 9 years.
Yeah.
Now, but Rocky timeline's all screwed up, so we really don't know how much it is in real
life. Yeah. But I mean, getting close to 10 years since we've had a Rocky film. This movie was really good. It was really nice to see Sylvester Stallone come back and play his, probably aside from Rambo, his most famous character that he has played. He does a really good job in this. He was actually nominated for Best Supporting Actor role for this Oscar for this movie. He does a great job in the film. I really enjoy Michael B. Jordan in this film as Apollo Creed's son Adonis. He does a great job. I really like Michael B. Jordan. He's been good in pretty much everything I've seen him in. Black Panther, he's probably the best part of Black Panther. He's the best actor in that movie. He does great as Killmonger in that movie. So I mean, I really enjoy Michael B. Jordan. I think he does a great job with this movie.
Fantastic. Sorry.
I mean, he's not bad in that either.
I didn't watch it. I just know the movie's terrible.
He's not bad in that. He's probably one of the better parts of that movie too.
Really? Okay.
But I mean, he's got some real potential and his future to do some really good stuff, even though he's been around for a while.
Yeah.
But getting back to Creed, this movie is pretty well written. It's got one of the best boxing scenes in the entire movie. It was a complete one take, actually. They filmed it in one take, which is really hard to do from what I understand, filming an entire scene in one extended long take.
Especially a scene that long.
Because I mean, if you mess up during that, you got to start completely over with that entire scene. So the techniques that they used in this movie are really good, and like I said, it's one of the best finales and boxing scenes that I've seen in a Rocky movie. Might even be the best. Might even beat out the first Rocky film for the best boxing scene. So that's why it comes in at my number 2.
Yeah, at my number 2, I also have Creed. Like you said, it's it'd been about almost 10 years since they had a Rocky film, so it was good to see it come back. I actually saw this one before I watched any of the other Rocky films, because when it came out, my brother dragged me to see it in theaters. So I'd seen it before I saw any of the other Rocky films. At the time, I didn't really appreciate it as much because I didn't know what the other Rocky films are about, so I didn't know all the throwbacks and references they were making and everything. After having watched the Rocky franchise and then watched this, I really like this movie. Like you said, Michael B. Jordan does a great job. Sylvester Stallone does a great job acting in this movie.
It's probably one of his best performances.
It might be his best performance ever. I mean, it's right up there with the first Rocky film. He got nominated for Best Actor for the first Rocky film. But after the first Rocky film, his acting,
takes a big drop.
Huge downhill turn. But yeah, he does a great job. I am very impressed with the range of emotion he shows in this movie and the acting he does in this movie. And so Ryan Coogler did a great job getting that performance out of Sylvester Stallone. I know it can't be easy. And of course, like I said, Michael B. Jordan is great too. And then of course Tessa Thompson, she's in it. She does a great performance. Like you said, the end fight, really impressive. Again, my one issue with the fight would be they do he got a split decision and he didn't actually win. Which is by this time, I think the third time they did this in the Rocky franchise.
See, they did it in the first one. They did it in the third one the first time he fights.
Well, in the third one, he just got knocked out in the first fight. Yeah. He did it in the sixth one.
The sixth one.
So this is the fourth time somebody has lost a fight. So, I mean, I was getting a little old by this point, but I was like, okay, I'll roll with it. And then one other thing that really bugs me about the movie is that every time a boxer shows up, they have a bio, they do a freeze frame, their bio shows up next to him with their boxing record and their height and their weight and everything. It's okay, that's kind of stupid. I didn't need that.
It doesn't bother me because they kind of do that in real boxing fights when people walk out.
Yeah, but they did it throughout the movie in this movie. I didn't need it.
Fair enough.
But other than that, it's a really good film. So yeah, that's my number 2.
All right. Well, coming in at number 1 for me is going to be the first film. It's going to be Rocky. Sylvester Stallone's script this is probably the best script he wrote.
Without a doubt,
it's 100. No, it's not probably. It 100% is the best script he wrote throughout the entire.
But franchise. I will say, a lot of the reason I have read that this movie is so great is a lot of the best scenes in this movie were totally improv by Sylvester Stallone and the other actors. But yeah, it's still a great script he wrote.
I think, like I said, it's a great script. It is Sylvester Stallone's maybe his best toss up between, like I said, that and Creed. Performance for his best performance, especially as the character
does a really
Rocky.
Good job. I mean, we're not reviewing this, but I think he also does a really good job in the first Rambo.
Yeah,
if you're looking at
he does do a pretty good job in the first Rambo. But as far as Rocky films go, it is 100% the best Rocky film. It really has a deep. It's really a drama more than a boxing
definitely.
movie. Coming up and knowing him, and he's a nobody, and he gets this chance to fight. A big name person, and he trains in unorthodox ways. I mean, punching sides of beef in a meat locker that Polly works at, and which is a fun time to see, and all kinds of stuff. I mean, running and his training montage of running up the steps, and he works his way up to being able to run up the entire steps. I mean, the first time he does it, he just has to walk up there. And then by the end of his training, he's able to just take off running and run up these steps, and we get his whole hands in the air at the end of that run. I mean, it's a great movie, and it's really cool considering the fact that this was a passion project for him.
Yeah,
that this movie was as good as it was, because I mean, a lot of times passion projects don't get made, or if they do get made, don't perform as well as people think. And this movie was nominated for Best Picture and won. Best screenplay, I think, and won.
Beat out Taxi Driver for Best Picture.
It won 3 Oscars. I can't tell you what all 3 of them won besides Best Picture, and was nominated for Best Actor
and Best Screenplay.
Best Screenplay, sound design, and editing, I believe. It's really cool that this movie did as well as it did and was nominated for as many Oscars as it was, considering, like I said, that it was a passion project. Yeah. But it's just a really good film all around, and I've always enjoyed this movie. It'll be one I'll have to show my kids when I'm older, so it's that good.
If you have kids.
Hopefully.
Yeah, number 1, I have Rocky 2. From what I've heard, like you said, it's a passion project. He wrote this script, and he shopped it around. And it took him a while to find someone to make it, because the studios would be like, okay, we'll take your script, but we won't take you. So it took him a while to find someone who wanted the script and would let him be the lead actor in it. And I think, even though people rag on Sylvester Stallone because he's not a great actor, he does a great job in this movie. And, I mean, you really feel for him, because the movie is about an underdog who is a nobody going on to live the American dream. They get their chance, and he fights Apollo, and he goes the distance, and he lives his dream, and he makes himself into somebody. And it's easy to feel for Sylvester Stallone because he looks like a blue collar type guy. He's not exactly the prettiest man to ever walk the face of the earth, and he does a lot of acting to make you to come off as kind of slow. In real life, if you see Sylvester Stallone, he kind of comes off as maybe not the brightest man on the face of the earth. But that all really helps to make you feel for him and want him to succeed, because he's just your average Joe trying to make a name for himself. And that alone makes this a great movie. Some of Sylvester Stallone's improv acting is really good in this movie, like the scene in the apartment where Mickey comes to his apartment and they have like this argument and everything is great. And
I didn't mention him. He's so good in the movie too.
Yeah, and that scene right there was all improv by Sylvester Stallone. And Burgess Meredith, he's great as Mickey. Carl Weathers is really good as Apollo, even though he's not in the movie much, honestly. And then Talia Shire as Adrian, she's really good.
It's really cool to see her arc across the films from being, just this really shy girl working in a pet store at the beginning of the first
to really
film.
running the family. And then she dies, she's dead in the 6th movie.
Dead in the 6th movie.
But it's okay. The first Rocky film is a great film. It's an American classic. I can't help but love it. So let's move on to In Honor of Widows.
Yeah, we're going to do our top 5 heist films. There might be some you may or may not consider necessarily a true heist film, but we'll go ahead and start.
It's our podcast.
It's our podcast, so we'll decide what we want. So I'll let Aaron start it off. Go ahead and start with your number 5.
So at number 5, I have a film that I've actually not seen until recently, Ocean's 11. I'll say I have it at number 5. I know people consider it like the epitome of heist films, and I always heard about how great of a film it was, and like it's how it's maybe like George Clooney's best movie and all this. I sat down and watched it, and I enjoyed it. It's a fun movie, but I didn't understand why everybody just is so in love with it. But I still have it at number 5 because, like I said, it is fun. It is neat. It's a stellar cast. You got George Clooney, Brad Pitt.
Which you don't like.
I don't like George Clooney or Brad Pitt. It's got Matt Damon, who I do usually like Matt Damon. Also has some other people I can't think of off the top of my head. Julia Roberts.
Julia Roberts.
I don't like her either. I don't like a lot of people.
Nah.
But I mean, they're a great cast. They all can act. This is early on in most of their careers. Pretty early on in most of their careers. I think this is the movie that really made George Clooney into a star. I mean, he'd been in some stuff before, but nothing like blockbuster wise. But it is a fun movie. And, of course, it's probably the most famous heist movie out there, so I got it at number 5.
Coming in number 5 for me is probably one Aaron's not going to really agree with. But just for the fun aspect of it, I have Point Break at number 5.
I've never watched it, so I can't say.
All right. Keanu Reeves and Patrick Swayze. It's a great time.
I actually like Keanu Reeves. I'm sorry.
They are so over the top in this movie, and it is just a great time. The story is really neat. Of Johnny Utah, played by Keanu Reeves, being. Don't you laugh at his name. Utah. His name's Johnny Utah.
Okay.
Being an undercover FBI agent. And I think the story in this one is really neat. How these two become friends. Him and Brody become friends, and how he learns how to teaches Johnny how to surf, and all these different things to help them bond.
So it's basically Fast and Furious on water.
Kinda.
Okay.
It's definitely way better than the remake. Way better.
Didn't they have a Hemsworth brother or something?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I don't really care. That movie was bad. This is way better than that.
Yeah.
It's a really fun time, and I enjoyed it a lot. So it's coming in at my number 5.
At number 4, I have a pretty new film, Logan Lucky. A lot of people probably haven't seen it because it bombed at the box office.
It's directed by Steven Soderbergh, who also did Ocean's 11.
Yeah. I actually went and watched this movie while it was in theaters. And it's a really fun movie. It stars Adam Driver and Channing Tatum as brothers who are going to rob from the Daytona 500, is it? I believe. Anyway, they're going to rob this NASCAR race. I mean, it's a dark... I don't know, dark comedy is the right word. It's like one of those kind of dry comedy movies where there's not a lot of laugh out loud moments, but it's all kind of subtle humor. But I mean, I really like it. There's some really emotional moments too. There's this one moment where Channing Tatum like just barely makes it to his daughter's school play, and instead of doing what she was gonna do, some performance from Cats or whatever, she sings her dad's favorite song, which is Country Roads. And I love that song, and it made me so emotional.
Thank you, John Denver.
Yeah, and my cold dead heart felt some emotion. And also, I love Daniel Craig in this movie as this like crazy convict that they broke out of jail to help them steal this money. He is hilarious. But yeah, it's a fun movie. There's also this big, long drawn out joke about Game of Thrones that I love Game of Thrones, so I thought the joke was hilarious. But yeah, that's my number 4. How about you?
All right, well, coming in at number 4 for me is going to be Reservoir Dogs. I'm a big fan of Quentin Tarantino. I think I have seen, if I'm not mistaken, I have seen all of his quote-unquote 8 films in his 10-film arc that he's supposed to be creating.
Yeah, we'll see when he gets to 10 films and
if he stops or not, but I believe I've seen all 8, if I'm not mistaken, and this was his big debut as far as those films go. And I think it's a really good time. Heist film, kind of. It centers around a failed heist.
I was gonna say it's more about the aftermath of a heist.
Of a failed heist, yeah. But I think it's really well acted. Harvey Keitel does a really good job in this movie, as well as Tim Roth. Steve Buscemi is in this movie. Sometimes
so
Steve
basically
Buscemi,
everybody who is in every Quentin Tarantino.
They are in a lot of Quentin Tarantino movies. At least some of his earlier ones. But I think it's really well written. It's got a really neat story. As far as all these people coming together in this area where this kind of warehouse after this failed jewelry heist goes completely astray and wrong. And there's some great performances, like I said, from those characters. And even Quentin Tarantino plays a character in this film, and he does a good job. Part. I think it's one of his better films, and especially being his debut film is really good. So that's my number 4.
Yeah, I don't have any Quentin Tarantino movies on my top 5 lists. Probably will never have any Quentin Tarantinos on any.
You're not a
big
Quentin Tarantino fan?
I'm not a big Quentin Tarantino fan, but we'll talk about that maybe in a review of one of his movies or something. But moving on to my number 3, I have Hell or High Water. It's a more recent film. It's about Chris Pine and his brother, whose actor's name I'm going blank on at the moment. They are these two brothers that they are needing money to save their mom's plant or farm or whatever from being taken up by the bank. His brother's name is Ben Foster. Let me issue a quick correction. Anyway, they need money to save their mom's farm from being foreclosed by the bank. So they go on this robbing spree, and like Chris Pine is like really doesn't want to be doing this, and he's like a nice robber, I guess, but his brother's a little crazy and a little violent. But anyway, Jeff Bridges is the sheriff in these parts, and he gets on their tail. Although Jeff Bridges is very hard to understand because he's in his mumbling phase of acting right now. I do like his performance in this movie. It does get very emotional, especially towards the end. But it's a really fun time. It's a great drama. Chris Pine does great. Jeff Bridges is great. Ben Foster does a really good job. So yeah, I have it at number 3. What you got?
All right, coming in number 3 is going to be your number 5 for me, and that's going to be Ocean's 11. Steven Soderbergh, in his first Ocean's film, did a really great job. Has a stellar cast. Let's see who all we got in this. We got George Clooney. Bernie Mac makes an appearance in this movie. Brad Pitt. Ben Affleck's little brother Casey.
Oh yeah.
Scott Conn, Don Cheadle's in this movie. Matt Damon, Julia Roberts. It's just a stellar cast, and they all come together and they play these parts really well. It's a great and fun time. It's a really neat heist film. I mean, with the plot of them getting back at George Clooney's, I guess technically ex-wife, her new boyfriend who owns all these casinos in Vegas, and they come up with this elaborate scheme that's kind of a revenge scheme, but also just a scheme to rob money. It's really cool, that aspect of the story, and I really enjoy it. And there's some great scenes in this movie, and it's a fun time. Steven Soderbergh did a great job with it, so it's gonna come in at my number 3.
Yeah, but number 2 I have Baby Driver from director
Edgar Wright.
Who did this movie instead of Ant-Man. Mostly, I think he got fired from Ant-Man, but he this movie, he did a great job with it. It's starring Ansel Elgort as this kid who's working for Kevin Spacey's character, who is orchestrating all these bank robberies and everything. It also has John Hamm and Jamie Foxx in it, and a few other people, and they go around, they rob these banks, but his name's Baby in the movie. Baby, he doesn't really like doing this. He's doing it because he owes Kevin Spacey, because he tried to steal Kevin Spacey's car. And then, of course, towards the end of the movie, things go south. And, I mean, it gets really violent, like Edgar Wright movies tend to do. But it's a really good movie, really fun time, a really good drama at times. So I got it coming at number 2.
All right, well, I agree with you at number 2 for me is also Baby Driver. I don't blame Edgar Wright for doing this instead of Ant-Man. Ant-Man is not one of the better Marvel films.
It'd have been better if he'd have directed it, I believe.
Probably. But, I mean, he made a really good choice directing this movie, and I think he wrote this movie as well. Probably. It's a really fun time. We get a really neat scene with Ansel Elgort's character, Baby, and he drives this little red car, and he actually learned how to do stunt driving for this movie, and he does all the driving in this movie. Did you know that?
I did not know that. That's cool.
They do it all in this. Obviously, it's in a close track, but he pulls off some really cool stuff and some really cool maneuvers that are filmed excellently. This movie's shot really well. Acted. Soundtrack is great. Ansel Elgort in particular does a really good job playing this kid. He's slightly
deaf.
He is slightly deaf, and I believe he's got Asperger's syndrome. I think they mentioned in the film he's a little bit on the slow side, and it makes for a really interesting character point for him. He was in an accident as a kid with his mother, I believe, where his mother passed away. Therefore, he lives with his I think it's like his uncle or aunt or something.
No, he lives with this old deaf dude.
Yeah,
that he's not related to, I don't believe.
Anyway, he does a great job in this movie. Also in this movie is John Bernthal from The Walking Dead. John Hamm does a great job in this movie. Lily James, who plays this waitress, whose name is Deborah. She's of Downton Abbey fame.
She also played in
She was also in Cinderella, the live action Cinderella. She does a great job in this film. And she's a really good love interest for Ansel Elgort in this film, and really helps drive some of his character motivations. Kevin Spacey's really good. Let's see who else.
You'll never see Kevin Spacey in a movie again.
No. Jamie Foxx is a fun time, as Jamie Foxx usually is in movies.
Oh, yeah.
Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers makes an appearance in this movie.
That's cool. One of my favorite scenes is when Jamie Foxx shows up with the Mike Myers
mask. The Mike Myers mask. He's like, no.
Michael Myers.
Not Michael Myers, not Mike Myers. He's like, no, that's what I got. It is one of the funniest scenes in the movie. But I really enjoy this. Well written, well directed, excellent cinematography. It's great shot, great acting, and that's why it's going to come in at my number 2.
All right, at my number 1, I have Inception, because I love sci-fi movies, and so you give me a sci-fi heist movie, I'm gonna love it.
Heist is a loose term.
Well, it's intellectual heist.
Intellectual heist, yeah.
Heisting. I don't think heisting's a word. Anyway, but this also has a stellar cast. It has Leo DiCaprio, who I'm usually not a big fan of.
You don't care for?
I honestly don't really care for him in this movie. But they got a lot of great actors. They have Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Ken Watanabe, Tom Hardy, Ellen Page, some other people, and they are. And the film is basically about they go inside these people's dreams and plant ideas. It's called Inception, and just the whole movie is just really fun, really twisted, and like hard to. I mean, like what's the word I'm looking for? It's really like all kinds of plot twists and screwy, and it's one of Chris Nolan's better films. I'm not gonna say it's his best film.
I'd say it's right behind. It's his best film behind The Dark Knight.
I'd say best film behind The Dark Knight. And Leo does a great job acting. I think he's a little overboard sometimes. Everybody else does a really good job. I really love the ending where he has like the little top that he spins, and if it stops
kind of
spinning,
leaves it open for interpretation.
Yeah, it leaves it open for interpretation because it starts to kind of wobble, but it cuts away before you see it fall. So is he dreaming? Is he not dreaming? Oh, and I forgot to list in the cast list Michael Caine, who's one of my favorite actors ever. He's in this movie for a little while. Supposedly, Michael Caine says that Chris Nolan told him while they were filming the movie that any scene with Michael Caine in it is real. So does that kind of spoil the ending? Does that mean that the ending was really going on or was real? But I don't know. Anyway, the world will never know. But yeah, it's a really great movie. I think everybody should check it out. And you may say that it's not exactly a heist movie, but I count it as a heist movie because they are trying to steal this guy's money. Basically, that's what they're doing in a long, convoluted, roundabout way. Anyway, what do you got?
All right. Well, I also have Inception at number 1. This is one of my favorite Christopher Nolan films. Obviously behind The Dark Knight, which is his best. I actually sat down and watched this movie for the first time here fairly recently, within the last month or two. I had to work the day that I watched it, and I didn't get to finish it all the way through before I had to leave and before I got to see the ending. And I enjoyed the movie so much up until the time that I had to leave to go to work that when I got off work, I wanted to come home and start the movie completely over just to watch it all the way through to see the ending. That's how much I enjoy this movie.
I can't stand that much Leo in a short amount of time.
This movie is great. Well written.
Yep.
Well acted. I like Leo DiCaprio. I think he does a really good job. Joseph Gordon-Levitt is good. Ken Watanabe is good. Ellen Page is good. Tom Hardy's good. Cillian Murphy is also in this movie, who's been in quite a few Christopher Nolan movies. He does a good job. Michael Caine is a fun time. Obviously, he's always good in everything he's in, except for maybe the one Jaws movie he's in.
We don't talk about that.
It is so good. Some people say that this movie, one thing that kept me from watching this movie for so long is how everyone says it is very hard to follow and extremely confusing and convoluted. I did not find it hard to follow.
No, I think if you're paying attention, it's not.
If you pay attention, it's not hard to follow at all. It's got a really cool opening that you kind of get that you find out toward the end as a flashback or I guess a flash forward of something that happens later in the movie.
Chris Nolan is a huge fan of non-linear.
Chris Nolan loves non-linear storytelling.
I don't like it.
He does such a great job with this movie. It looks amazing, and it has some of the best visual effects I think I've ever seen in a movie. Some of the scenes of like what they call. The person who creates these dreamscapes is called an architect, so they're building these dreamscapes. Some of the best visuals I've seen. Looks really good. The ending is excellent, and I really love that they keep it open for interpretation at the end of the movie with that top spinning, and it kind of starts to wobble and fades to black.
It doesn't fade to black. It cuts to black.
It cuts to black. And it's really cool that they leave that open for interpretation. I believe that he's not dreaming, but I think that this is an excellent film. All the way around. If The Dark Knight wasn't so good, I'd probably put it, and I didn't love Batman so much, I'd probably say it was his best film.
Yeah.
So that's why it is my number 1.
All right. Well, we've talked for a while. Let's move on to movie news.
We've talked for quite a while, almost 50 minutes.
Look at us go. Somebody's going to do a lot of editing. Movie news. If y'all can't tell, I've been trying to hype this movie up on this podcast.
Aaron loves Godzilla.
A little bit. Maybe a little too much.
Which actually right now, Aaron is going through and showing me pretty much every Godzilla movie.
What did you think about the last one we just watched?
We just finished watching
my favorite,
Mothra vs. Godzilla. Or I guess technically the American version, which is Godzilla versus The Thing.
Yeah, stupid.
I think it's really good. It's as far as Godzilla movies go, which I've not seen very many. I've seen the original, and we skipped the second one because according to Aaron, it's terrible.
It's bad.
And then we watched Godzilla versus King Kong, which was just completely
King
cheesy.
Kong versus Godzilla.
Sorry, King Kong versus Godzilla,
right.
which is just completely cheesy. This movie is that movie was a lot more serious, and I enjoyed it quite a bit, a lot more than I was expecting to enjoy Godzilla films. And I'm really excited to continue this journey of watching every single Godzilla movie.
Yeah, so what this leads to, while we got off on this tangent, Godzilla King of the Monsters officially wraps post-production.
So this movie is finished.
This movie's finished. I keep hoping that they're going to announce they're going to move this movie back up to its original release date in March. I think it would do a lot better financially in March, around spring break time. Because right now it's slated to be released right in the thick of the summer between X-Men and other
right after Avengers 4.
right before X-Men.
Right before X-Men. Right there smack in the middle.
I'm like, that's a rough release date. I don't know why they thought that would be a good idea. But yeah, I'm excited. I keep hoping, like I said, that they're going to move the release date up. I don't think it's going to happen, but it's good to know that they're already done with it. I've heard rumors of new trailers coming up soon. I'm excited to see it. But yeah, overall, just really excited to see it. How about you?
Considering the fact that we're on our journey of watching all the Godzilla movies, according to Aaron, he believes this one is going to be pretty much a remake of King Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, right?
Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, yeah.
Ghidorah, whatever.
They pronounce it different
in a bunch of different movies. Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, he believes it's going to be pretty much a remake of this one. And according to Aaron, that is one of the better films in the ridiculous amount of Godzilla movies that there are.
33.
33, whatever we're at.
I even lost track. That's how many we left.
So I think that if it is, according to what I've heard from Aaron, considering the fact that I haven't watched that film yet, which is the next one we're going to watch, and we'll be watching that one real soon, I think it's got the potential to be really good. It's got some good cast members.
Definitely. I'm a huge fan of Vera Farmiga.
I really like Vera Farmiga too.
Big fan of
Millie Bobby Brown's good in Stranger Things. I think Ken Watanabe's coming back in this one, right?
Ken Watanabe's back. So is Sally Hawkins is back. She's a good actor. If you've seen The
Shape of Water, though, it's weird. She does a really good job in that movie.
She's a good actor.
There's some scenes I didn't want to see with her in that movie, but she does a great job.
And Kyle Chandler, who does a really good job in movies like Super 8 and everything. He's going to be
I like Kyle Chandler too, yeah.
So
this movie has a lot of potential.
And Ice Cube's son,
O'Shea Jackson Jr.
O'Shea Jackson Jr., whatever his name is.
Like I said, this movie has a lot of potential to be really good. I mean, if you say that if it does end up being pretty much a remake of that one, it'll be really cool to see a big budget Hollywood great special effects version of that movie.
Oh yeah, that'll be fun.
So I'm looking forward to that one.
So moving on from me gushing about Godzilla, we just watched the new Dumbo trailer today. Of course, Dumbo is the classic Disney tale of the elephant with giant ears that flies. This is a Tim Burton film. It's got Tim Burton written all over it. If you've seen the trailer,
it really does.
What do you think?
I like Tim Burton for the most part. I mean, his Batman movies are really good. They're some of the better Batman movies that have been made. Edward Scissorhands is actually surprisingly really good. I put off watching that movie for so long because I always thought it was going to be so weird with Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp is a weird man, and Tim Burton's a weird man. But I sat down and watched that movie a couple years ago, and it is surprisingly really good, and I enjoy it a lot. I have not seen some of his classics that everyone will hate me for, like Nightmare Before Christmas.
Oh man, you haven't seen it?
I've never seen it.
I don't think he directed that film. I think he only produced that.
Really?
Film. Yeah.
I don't know.
I might be wrong.
That'll be one to look up.
What about Beetlejuice? Have you seen Beetlejuice?
I have seen Beetlejuice. I don't care for Beetlejuice a whole lot, and I love Michael Keaton.
Yeah.
And I do not like him as Beetlejuice.
It's a long time since I've seen Beetlejuice.
I don't care for his performance. I mean, he does a good job playing Beetlejuice, but I don't like him as that character.
I think the epitome of Tim Burton films is Batman Returns. Just the look of that movie.
It is 100% a Tim Burton movie.
I mean, it's a good movie too.
That's probably the best Batman film outside behind The Dark Knight.
The Dark Knight trilogy.
Yeah.
I'd say Batman Begins is better too.
But I mean, this movie has potential to be good. I mean, these live-action remakes of Disney classics have been pretty good for the most part.
Yeah.
The Jungle Book was excellent.
I think that's a high point.
Cinderella was really good.
Didn't watch it.
In my opinion, I thought it was really good. What else has come out?
Beauty and the Beast. I didn't watch
Beauty
that.
and the Beast was good. I enjoyed it a lot too. So this has got potential. All these live action Disney remakes have really done pretty well, I think, and they've all been well made, and I've enjoyed them for the most part, as well as the fact that this one comes out on my birthday, which is just a fun time. So,
Side note,
speaking
of Disney live action movies,
they have had a couple bombs this year though.
Andy Serkis's Jungle Book, I think it's called Mowgli.
Yeah,
is they're gonna make a direct to Netflix movie. It's supposed to be like a quote unquote darker tale of the Jungle Book. I thought their live action version that Jon Favreau did was pretty dark, all things considered. But you think that'll be any good?
I think it'll be all right.
All right. Yeah, same thing for me on Dumbo. I think it's got potential. It could be pretty emotional, but Tim Burton, he's hit and miss for me. He's kind of like M. Night Shyamalan. He's just kind of, you never know what you're gonna get quality wise, but we'll see. So let's talk a little bit about Once Upon a Deadpool.
All right, so Once Upon a Deadpool, if you don't know, is going to be a
recut.
Short. It's a recut PG-13 version of Deadpool 2, with additionally added scenes that include Fred Savage that are going to play up a story similar to The Princess Bride, and it's going to be a limited release. It's going to be released wide across the country, but it's only going to be run for 2 weeks.
So basically, he's going to be telling the story to Fred Savage.
Yeah, it's going to be a toned down version that he's telling to an adult Fred Savage, and I think it's going to be a really fun time.
I don't know if I want to say that again, but
I enjoy Deadpool 2 a lot.
It's okay.
I think it's pretty much right on par with the first one. Not quite as good as the first one, but
it's the exact same movie as the first one.
I enjoyed the first Deadpool a lot. I loved the first Deadpool. This one was really good, and I'm excited to see them do a recut of it in PG-13. I think it'll tone it down, and it'll be able to allow a larger audience to go see this movie.
When me and Adam and Nate went and saw it, we had a little girl that could not have been older than 8 sitting right next to us with her mom. So did they really need to recut it to PG-13 for young kids to see it?
I don't know.
But yeah, I agree. It could be interesting to see the new scenes they've added. I'm not the biggest Deadpool fan. I like the films, but I'm not in love with the movies like other people. Especially the second one. I thought they would just kind of basically redid the first Deadpool with extra characters. It's like, yeah, okay, whatever. But, we might go see it. I don't know if I don't think we're going to review it.
We won't review it, but
moving on to other Disney works.
We got Ralph Breaks the Internet, which I spelled wrong. I put this on here. I forgot the K, so it's Ralph Breaks the Internet according to our show notes.
But anyway,
what are your thoughts so far?
I haven't seen the first Wreck-It Ralph, so I don't know. I've seen parts of the first Wreck-It Ralph, and I was like, oh, that looks okay. But this trailer for this movie looks pretty good. So, I got faith in Disney for pumping it. It is a Disney film, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I got faith in, obviously, because they had the Disney princesses and the Star Wars stuff. I got faith in Disney for these animated movies, so I think it'll be pretty good.
Yeah, I'm on the same page. I enjoyed the first Wreck-It Ralph. I thought it was really good. As far as Disney animated movies go, or the modern Disney animated movies, it's a pretty good one. This one looks like it'll be a fun time. I don't think it'll be as good as the first one, but it'll still be good. Disney does a lot better when they're making these sequels or original films when they're animated, because their live action or quote-unquote original idea movies have pretty much bombed. John Carter bombed.
Oh, God. That's not original, though.
It's not original. It's based on a story, but, it's one of their more out there movies that no one really asked for.
John Carter bombed.
The Lone Ranger bombed. This past year alone, we got, this year alone, we got A Wrinkle in Time, which bombed.
What was that one with George Clooney?
Tomorrowland. Yeah, it bombed. And let's see. And then here recently, The Nutcracker and the Four Realms pretty much bombed.
Is that a Disney movie?
It is a Disney movie.
The last Pirates movie didn't do too well.
It didn't do too well either. So Disney doesn't have a great track with live action, more original storytelling movies. Yeah. They do better when they're focusing on their animated stuff or a Marvel or Star Wars movie.
Not the last couple of Star Wars movies. Anyway, move on.
But I'll
get on a rant and I can't stop.
I think this one has potential to be good, and I still think it'll be good, just not quite as good as that first one.
All right, yeah. So moving on from that, also speaking of Disney, Guardians 3, Disney is looking at maybe hiring Bumblebee director Stephen Knight, who I have seen his one other directorial credit, which is Kubo and the Two Strings, which is a claymation film. I actually really like that movie, so I'm really excited about Bumblebee. Depending on how Bumblebee turns out, I could be really...
His name is Travis Knight.
Travis Knight, Stephen Knight, whatever. Travis Knight, I'm sorry. Depending on how this Bumblebee movie turns out, I could really be interested in seeing him take over the reins of the Guardians franchise.
I agree with you. Bumblebee, from the looks of the trailers, except for that one that we just saw recently.
Yeah. Looks like it has
It
potential.
looks like it has potential to be really good, actually.
I really am looking forward to it because they really like connecting it back to the original cartoon with the sounds, like the transforming sounds. I can't do it, but like I can't even do it. But the transforming sounds that sounds just like out of the old cartoon, and
there's a lot of
redesigns.
throwbacks to these characters, and they look like they did in the original cartoon.
Yeah, especially Optimus. He looks just like
he looks
in the cartoon.
just like, and they're throwing it back to the original Starscream and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
I think that movie will be really good, and if that movie does turn out good, I think, and depending on how comedic that movie ends up being too, because I mean these Guardians movies obviously have a very comedic aspect to them.
Yeah.
He has the potential to do a really good job with that. He also has done he has been the lead animator in a big animation, like big name in animation with like Kubo. He did Paranorman. He was the lead animator on Coraline. So some big things in the animation world.
Yeah.
He did a good job with all those.
That's an interesting choice to bring him on for Bumblebee, since he is so involved with animated movies.
Yeah.
But obviously, they needed fresh blood for this Transformers franchise. Michael
Bay has beat it to death.
I think Michael Bay pretty much gave up on trying after the.
Which I mean, they're still
one.
planning. They're still planning on making more Transformers movies in that main line of franchise.
But not with Michael Bay.
No, not Michael Bay. Michael Bay will not be back.
He'll probably produce them, but
he is done.
But we'll see.
One other thing we got to talk, or our last thing to talk about, is Ezra Miller has stated that this Flash, or as they originally titled it, Flashpoint movie is still happening. What do you think?
Okay, well, first of all, I think DCEU, they're at a crossroads right now because Henry Cavill essentially quit on them.
And Ben Affleck, I think I've heard, is essentially quit on them.
Affleck I think is still kind of up in the air, but yeah, there's probably not going to get him back. So at this point, what your universe has been in so much turmoil from its inception. What are you going to do? Like, your main star, Henry Cavill, who was, like, your main franchise carrier, he started it and everything, is quit. What do you do now? I mean, you have a lot of characters to build on. I think Flash was one of the better parts of Justice League.
I think what they could do with this is use it as a point. If they do the Flashpoint storyline, which obviously revolves around different timelines or dimension aspects, they have a real good opportunity here to reboot the entire DCEU with that Flashpoint storyline.
I think it depends. We have Aquaman obviously coming out this December. Probably going to bomb.
I feel like that movie's going to bomb. Or it'll make money, but it's going to be bad.
We'll see how that turns out. Obviously, you still have Wonder Woman 1984.
Which has been postponed for another year.
Yeah, you have Shazam, which I feel like is maybe they're hoping that can kind of start on a new path. You have the Suicide Squad spinoff with Harley Quinn.
The Gotham City Sirens.
Yeah, that's being planned. Of course, you have the unrelated Joaquin Phoenix Joker film.
Suicide Squad 2 has been picked up, I believe.
Yeah, they're thinking
James Gunn.
And obviously he can breathe new life back into it.
So there's potential for them to have some better stories.
If I was DCE, though, honestly, after this Aquaman thing, I'd hit the reset button. I would get these movies out that we already have pretty much made, like Aquaman and Shazam.
Flashpoint originally wasn't scheduled to come out until like late 2020 or 2021. Yeah. So, I mean, that's still a ways off in the future, and those movies are all supposed to be out by 2020 or 2021, I believe.
Yeah.
So, like I said, if that movie comes out in 2020, 2021, around that time frame, it has potential to completely to be that reset film. It can bring in characters from our DCEU movies, and have that Flashpoint storyline reset it, and when they enter this new alternate timeline, have different people casted as these characters and reset this entire franchise.
Yeah, because it's been rough.
It's been rough.
I feel like Zack Snyder did an okay job with Man of Steel, but they let him have too much power over the franchise, and he wasn't up to the task. His movies just went
The
downhill.
biggest problem with these movies is inconsistent tone throughout the entire franchise.
Not the biggest problem.
It's
Writing is the biggest problem.
One of the biggest problems. I mean, Man of Steel was a little bit darker.
Tone is not a problem. You look at the Marvel movies; their tone's all over the place.
Batman v Superman was a darker movie.
Yeah,
and then we got to Justice League, and
which originally was a darker movie.
Joss Whedon stepped in and made it really lighthearted.
Well,
or not really lighthearted, made it more lighthearted than Zack Snyder would have originally wanted.
That is an issue within the Justice League, is that the tone within the film itself shifts so radically from Joss Whedon scenes to...
Which originally he wasn't supposed to reshoot most of that film, but I think he went back and reshot a lot.
He read the script and he's like,
nope.
He saw what we had, he's like, ugh. But I don't know. I mean, like I said, at this point,
Ezra Miller is okay as the Flash.
I thought he was pretty good. He's a little over the top, but
yeah,
he was entertaining. That's more than I can say for most of the people in that movie that were just like, oh God, why are we in this movie? But anyway, I think that is about all we have this week.
Let's talk about what we got upcoming. I didn't put that on our show notes. I forgot about that.
Yeah, upcoming, obviously, we have Creed 2, Widows, this weekend, followed by...
week after that is Robin Hood.
That's going to be bad. And then followed by that, Ralph Breaks the Internet, which I hope will be good.
So keep a lookout for those reviews. Also keep a lookout for a discussion, I guess, over Robin Hood.
Yeah, since we only have one movie scheduled for the week of Robin Hood, we might try to go back and watch and review the first Wreck-It Ralph if we get some extra time.
Yeah.
No promises. But anyway, I guess we need to plug our social media accounts.
Yep, we are up on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at DNA Film Wars, all lowercase, no space.
If you have any,
give us a like or follow on all those.
If you have any specific comments and or questions, you can contact us at dnafilmwars@gmail.com. Feel free to leave us a review on any of your podcasting services.
Yep, we are up on all those major podcasting services, pretty much anything you can think of. And if you don't listen audio-wise, you can find us on YouTube.
Yep. So, as always, thank you for listening. I'm Aaron.
I'm Dylan, and we'll see you next time.